Hello and welcome to the Healthy Business Podcast. I am joined by the wonderful Lindsay Randerson today, and we are going to be delving into all sorts of things. But really, Lindsay is a health and wellbeing coach, holistic therapist, as well as a wellness expert. And we're going to be looking at how nutrition in the workplace, the power of that, how it can help us not just feel great and energized, but actually how it can help us be more productive and have, I suppose, almost kind of a catalyst to achieving amazing results within your business as well. So, Lindsay, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, it's really nice to be here. Thanks, Sarah.
Oh, you're so welcome. I love having conversations with wonderful people like you. So, one of the questions that I ask right at the beginning of all of my guest interviews is, what does a healthy business mean to you? And I would love your take on this, having experienced things from both sides, being a wellness expert yourself, but also running your own business.
Yeah, I think healthy business to me, gosh, that brings up a lot of thought actually. A healthy business for me is really, I guess, trying to find the flow, the bit in the middle. We talk an awful lot about balance, but in my experience, balance is sort of tends to be up and down and up and down and roundabout, and we're navigating through lots of different things, and I think finding a flow, finding your own self within that, and actually being a little bit truer for who you are and what you want to I suppose live, how you want to live, and what you want to take with that, but through business and business and work. I think we talk a lot about this sort of as if they're both two separate entities, and actually I'm much more comfortable bringing these both together. So healthy would be that balance in between bit, the bit in between, the sort of work stress and the chaos that can bring in, and life chaos can be that in, but where in the middle can you navigate which feels good for you, it's supportive for you, that it supports your patients and clients, and makes you feel great, makes you feel good, the good parts of life, and I think that pleasure and joy and sort of creative passion that we all love, where does that fit into it? And I think it's sort of navigating all of those little areas really, and coming to a place where you're absolutely healthy, doing what you love, and enjoying that space as well.
Oh, I love that description. I think you're right. We do have this kind of chaotic life where there's just so much going on around us and how much we get caught up in that. But when we're running a business, there's a whole other entity of things that are kind of going through. Or even if you have a job, whatever you're doing outside of life is going to have an impact on your life, and likewise the other way. So finding those nuggets, finding those bits in between, that flow. I love that description. It
Yeah.
reminds me of a book that I was reading by Ben Fogel called Inspire, where he kind of had this thought that, we focus so much on our 2-week holiday a year where we're going away and doing things that we enjoy doing. But actually, there's 52 weeks in the year. So, what are we doing the 50 weeks of the year? We're running this kind of crazy chaos. Whereas, actually, if we spent more time thinking about the 50 weeks of the year, not only would we enjoy those 2 weeks holiday more a year, that whole experience, that whole flow, that bit in between that you were talking about, that is the bit that lights us up, the things that we're doing on
Yeah.
an everyday basis.
Yeah, and I think that's really, that's a sort of, and also, for those other weeks of the year, what can we do daily? We all get to sort of Friday, and I it's the Friday vibe, isn't it? The Friday feeling. Well, actually, what happened to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday?
Yeah.
They are equally part of our week, but they seem to be almost, what happens if we didn't give them a name? What happens if we didn't actually say Monday? What feeling is Monday evoking us even before we've hit the office? If we didn't have a Monday and it was just another day, would you feel it differently? Would you do things differently in that day? And if you're not doing it on a Monday, because it's the Monday, you know, what could you bring in which was something that you really absolutely loved? So yeah, I think there is lots of thoughts around, we label things too much, don't we? We sort of give things which then create this sort of Monday low mood, you know, oh my gosh, you know, I'm heading in, it's the commuting, it's the traffic, you know, I've got loads of meetings. Actually, let's just ditch the days of the week and go in with a very much of an open mind. What could I create in this day which was more supportive for me and the people that I work with? Yeah,
It's
I'm all
so
for that.
important. So important breaking it down. Yeah, I'm a big believer in not finding that work-life balance, but actually it's all life, and work is a piece of that and a pillar of life. And how does that get incorporated into our overall life on that daily basis? I did an episode recently, episode 45, which was all about bringing joy into the everyday and how that can kind of lead to more success within your business. And I think it is those everyday, it's those micro moments as well, isn't it? Of how, it isn't, and it shouldn't be this kind of big one thing that we focus on. It should be this kind of everyday things, because that's what brings us the joy. That's what helps us get into flow. In your experience, I mean, your career has spanned, many years looking at how to help other people in their businesses from a wellness perspective. And you've done a lot of traveling and, being wellness director for 5-star health resorts. That's amazing. Helping other people do, promote their health and wellness. But I know that wasn't always the case from your perspective, was it?
Yeah, it wasn't. And I guess because you get sucked in, you get sucked into the machine. And I've pretty much have been in a resort since I was 15. I pretty much have spent majority of my life. I'm 53 now. I've spent the majority of my life in and around health and wellness, and have lots of modalities and lots of sort of things that I've done and learned and researched and studied. But the machine that is that sort of corporate world, and when I was so young and so eager to, throw myself in, and I literally just did that. I just threw myself in with gusto and pretty much forgot about me. And I think in the health and wellness business, there's sometimes a little bit of, we're very good at giving. We're very, very good at looking after other people, but we're absolutely dreadful at receiving, at looking at us first. And it took its toll. I was traveling internationally. I was, living, working pretty much round the clock, really. And I got to the stage where I was really burnt out and exhausted. And I think not the people first, that the corporations, that I really wanted to have that more connection with people. When you're in really large corporations, you can just get caught up in it and you become another person in the wheel, in the cog. That really didn't support me, and it took for me to take a step back from that and look at myself and say, actually, I'm not happy. I'm really fundamentally not happy. I'm not doing the things that I necessarily want to be achieving in my life. I am now ill. So I had adrenal fatigue, I had chronic anxiety. I was really stressed, highly stressed at that point. Hormones kicked in, and I was feeling really lethargic and chronically fatigued. And I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I had all of these modalities that, what is it that I'm missing? What is it that I'm not doing? And I guess for me, I wasn't listening. I just wasn't listening enough. And it took, for me to really just stop and reassess what on earth, I was doing. And if I'm not looking after myself, how the heck can I look after other people? And so I remember taking a big sheet of paper a big sheet of A3 and just going, right, this is it. And I brain dumped everything on there, all the things that, this isn't working. These areas aren't working. And I really then started just focusing on one area and putting in really small sort of areas and steps and micro steps again, and rebuilding me effectively, and looking after my health was a massive part of that. I mean, my nutrition changed drastically. That was the sort of foundation and the starting point. If you're eating well, you are nourishing your body, you're nourishing every cellular function in your body, you are going to start to see improvement. And I sort of started with that approach, and then brought in other modalities and researched and went back to learning, went back and did a degree, so and have gained so much more clarity. But it took the pause, it took the stopping for me to gain clarity on that, and also being really open and very raw and very honest about what the heck was going on, and unpack the baggage, because we can hold a lot of that for years, so unpacking a lot of the rubbish that had been going on, and really starting again, just starting from, a place of, okay, yeah, I do not want to move backwards, let's move forwards. How does that work? And I think we all get to a place where we've just had enough. We just stop. And that can be forced upon us. That can be illness or, stress or redundancy. That happened to me as well. And yeah, I just, yeah, it shouldn't really take that. It shouldn't really get to a stage where we're ill, and then we start reassessing. And so now where I look at is, okay, what can we do and put into place now, before we get to another 10, 15 years where, life becomes so chaotic that actually we've forgotten the very essence of who we are. Where can you put a pause in to the day? Where can you get outside? Where can you eat well? Where can, what's your sleep like? What's your movement? Because every time I say exercise to people, they run a mile.
It is movement,
so yeah, it is
Yeah.
movement. Yeah. And so it's looking at those in synergy. It's a synergy of your life and what you put into that. And equally, it's actually really great to chuck out a load of stuff and go, that isn't helping at all. I don't want that in my life anymore. And I did a lot of that, if that was, the food, one of them, alcohol. I've not drunk alcohol now for about 7 or 8 months. I feel much better for it. That's my choice. That was not doing myself any good. And swapping and changing and altering and just being a little bit more aware of what was happening to me. And I think it's a synergy as well, isn't it? You've got to be conscious of those choices that you make, and also be a little bit brave and courageous to say, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore, and that throws up, I've lost lots of people, where your circle of friends change, your corporate life changes, your relationships change, so, but I think it's being a little bit brave and saying, yeah, this is not where I want to be. And I think that's been a huge learning curve for me, definitely.
It is. It's so interesting. I think it's hard making changes, isn't it? But I think it's, when you are in your comfort zone and you don't know what is, we hear this phrase, the kind of the grass is always greener, and there's, negative associations attached to that. And actually staying in the place that you're in is safer because you know it, even though you know that it's not necessarily safe for you to be in there. But taking that step outside of it feels really uncomfortable. It feels really hard. And I think you have to go through that to then get to that next point, to get into that learning zone, to then get into the real kind of game-changing zones. And it is easier said than done. And I appreciate that for those that are listening. I think one of the things that came out really strongly, well, there were quite a few things that kind of listening to that I resonated with. But I think also what came out really strongly is it's this synergy of life. It's what you put into it, what you take away from it that isn't serving you, but actually what you can get from it. And when we start from that point of what do I want to get out of it, then you make sure that you're putting the right things into that. And I see so many business owners that are pushing so hard for results, wanting to achieve the success, which is brilliant. I love an ambitious person. But if we're not nourishing ourselves, if we're not giving ourselves that support to be able to achieve those results, and that does come through our health and well-being, it does come through the people that we surround ourselves with, the relationships we have, the boundaries that we set, all of these things, then we're never going to get to those results that we want to, because at some point we are going to get a health trigger, whether that is burnout, whether it's going to get overwhelmed. And whatever anyone tells you, you cannot keep pushing 24/7 to get the results without it impacting your health or relationships. And in some ways, it's one of the reasons that I set up this podcast, because I truly believe that they're so entwined. Like, to have a healthy business, you have to be healthy yourself. Being healthy yourself is going to be different for everybody, because we all are different, we're all unique. But what came out from what you were saying is this synergy of life. I love it, that it's what you're putting in and wanting to get out of it, but actually you can strip stuff back, making changes to the people that you're spending time with. I think not being afraid to do that as well. If people aren't serving you, if they're draining you of energy every time you speak to them, you don't necessarily have to never speak to them again, but limit that time or choose when you're doing that. Have those boundaries in place. Look for a new circle of friends or business owners that lift you up when you need lifting up, that support you, that create that bouncing board. I think it is a holistic approach, isn't it, to success in life as well as business. And that, as I said, that I really do feel that they're so entwined. I think also one of the things that came through for me is that obviously you hit that rock bottom. You were forced to press pause. Is that we need to bring this back onto our to-do lists. We need to make sure that we are at the top of our to-do list.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
when we're such givers, and we all are as business owners, then we want to be able to give and give and give, which is great. But if we hit that rock bottom, if we do hit that burnout, if we do feel so overwhelmed, we actually can't give to anybody, let alone ourselves. And I think that sort of just slight shift in mindset as well of, we hear this phrase, you can't pour from an empty cup, which feels like it's been overused to a certain extent. But actually that true thing, that synergy of life, of filling yourself up, knowing what it is that you need personally, having that awareness, that's where it all starts from, isn't it?
Yeah, and also I am the queen of the uncomfortable. Okay, so I mean I have been uncomfortable for a long time, and now I'm used to it. I don't
Yeah.
actually like being in any little comfort zone or a box anymore. I will physically drag my sorry backside out of a box because I know that I don't need to be in there. And I think we get very comfortable with this box thing, this sort of comfort zone. I'm like, heck no, get us out of here,
Yeah, make that
because I
change.
know that becomes your, somebody that I was I've done a couple of courses with, and he said, once the Pandora's box is open, you're never going to get back in here again. And he's so true. I've never got back into this box again because I don't want to live in a box. I want to be exploring. I want for patients and clients to get uncomfortable with exploration, to get comfortable with not getting things right all the time. It's not one fits all, but we're so used to feeling anxious about this comfort, or if I'm doing something it doesn't feel right, or let's get back into this little comfort zone again. So I will, try and just navigate around that, because once you get comfortable with that uncomfortable, it becomes much easier then to say, actually, this isn't working for me. Okay, well, let's move on. Let's try something else. Let's give ourselves a pat on the back because you've done a really good job of making a step. It's And by doing that and allowing that to come in, oh my gosh, it just frees up so much more joy in life. If you're going to do something, let's do it because it's the pleasure of the doing and the your feeling of that experimentation of it. Let's not put the goal as the end goal of achieving it. It is the end goal.
You want to enjoy that journey too,
Yeah,
don't
you
you?
want to, you want to get sort of raw and vulnerable and open and just explore down lots of different avenues. And I think that's what life is about. And before, it was work, box of work that, I'd go in, I'd do my job, and do that. And then life, home, was very different. And there were two very, very different sort of entities. The Lindsay at work was very different from the Lindsay at home. And now I am me, and the mask, and I think we're very good at putting masks on as well, the mask of, the manager, the director, the business owner, actually, who are you underneath all that? And I think that gets back to, really just being true to yourself and working from a place of wanting to support you. And if you're supported and healthy and nourished, then you can do your absolute utmost to do that for other people. So yeah, it has come full circle, Sarah, and by all means, it has been a big, messy old time. But now I go, okay, love the mess. Bring
Let's
on more
embrace the
mess.
mess.
Yeah. Embrace the mess. Yeah, love that. So universe is listening and going, okay, you can have some more.
But it's your mess. And I think
Yeah.
that's it, isn't it? You get to
Yeah.
choose how you navigate through that. And by being aware of that, being open-minded to things, we recognize that change is always going to happen. We recognize that there's always going to be chaos in our lives. But how we choose to react to that, how we choose to navigate that, you can do that from a much better starting point because you've nourished yourself, because you've got that mindset that allows you to do that. Yeah, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is huge, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
something that brings close to me of the idea of settling and staying stuck in one place, not necessarily physical location place, but that brings more fear to me than actually kind of exploring different things and taking steps out to things. I think also just, if you are listening to this as a business owner, you have already taken a massive step outside of a comfort zone. Setting up a business is not easy. There are only a small percentage of people that make a business successful, but that comes from continuously taking steps out of our comfort zone. We're all learning. We're always learning. We're always on a journey. But being open to that and as you say, getting comfortable with that uncomfort feeling, that is what's going to make those changes. That is what's going to grow you forward. Not necessarily, everything's going to be successful, but we learn from those too. Failing isn't about, having slip ups and making changes and evolves. Failing is when you stay stuck and you don't make those changes. And I think, it's just saying yes to things, and you can do that in your way. Absolutely doing it in your way, knowing what it is that you're wanting to achieve, navigating through that mess, as you called it. That is life, isn't it?
Yeah,
Life is,
definitely.
we don't know what's around the corner. Things get thrown at us left, right, and center. But if we are supported, if we're nourished in the right possible way, we're much better placed to navigate through all of that. As you have proved and are now, running a really successful business and helping people. You're still traveling. We were saying before we came live about you're heading off to Portugal and traveling and running workshops and retreats and things. That doesn't have to stop just because the travel was hard in your corporate career, but you're nourishing yourself in a different way. So it doesn't mean that you can't bring some of these things back into it.
Yeah, and I love, I love now the companies that I work with are all really people first. It's not the same. I'm talking sort of 20 years ago. And life and people have evolved in lots of different companies, and there's a much more focusing on the people now make the work, and you have to look after your people, and there's much more people focused and much more conscious effort around that, and I think that's lovely. And I work specifically with people who are people orientated in their businesses, and that really is the game changer for me. I'm not a wheel, a little clog in something that's kind of swallowed up now. I am part of that machine that works, and everybody has equal standing, and we all support each other, and that then becomes a beautiful part of my life. Is I love my work, and before I used to absolutely dread, where are you today? Oh, I'm off to, wherever it might be. Need to be in an airport, off go. And now I have that choice, I have that flexibility. I'm really looking forward to going and seeing, the people that are running Wildview Retreat, on Friday, and having an amazing couple of weeks out there, just connecting and embracing and learning. I'm still learning, and I learn every day from people. I work for the NHS a couple of days a week, and I learn so much from patients. I learn so much from people, and I think listening has become a skill that we've forgotten about. And sometimes it's just actually stopping, pausing, and listening. And listening will allow people to then really be held, and they want to then talk, they want to be listened to, and I think that's really an important part of our healing. If we're not actually prepared to listen to people, then how on earth can we help and support people? So a lot of my work now is based on that modality. It's holistic health, and that comes down to what can we do, what is the most important part for you, because everybody's different, and where can I influence and support and help and nurture that, making steps forward. So yeah, life is very different now, and I love my work. I love the people that I work with, and for me, I have a very grounded approach to health now. It's much more focused in on support and nourishment and joy and happiness and contentment. And I practice, I practice every day. I have to, I started meditating 3 years ago. I practice every day. I meditate every day. I journal every day. I walk outside. Nature has become really a part of my modality, and I bring those into my everyday. And without that, I don't want to go back again. I don't want to go back into that space where I lost myself. And now I have a very good understanding of what I need and what I can support myself with. I'm then in a position to support others. So yeah, practice is definitely key. It's not something that you do, tick a box and go, right, I've done that. It's a constant, it evolves, it's constantly evolving, and I'm learning new things all the time, and I love that. I didn't get to do that. My part of my corporate life, I can't remember one thing about it. 15 years of just doing the job. I wasn't learning anything. I was just doing the job. And now I'm like a sponge. I've come out in the last 3 years. I think I've done the most ridiculous courses, and and things that I'm so eager to learn and to really get sort of, I don't know, just life is enriching if you allow that enrichment into your life, I suppose. And before, it was so closed off. I was in a position which was quite lonely, and I think as business owners, we can get into positions that you feel really isolated and really lonely. And that definitely went through a period of time where I felt like that. And now I don't, as you say, I've surrounded myself with a lot of amazing people who are there as, a foundation. And I know that they have my back. And because of that, you flourish. You've got great people around you.
Yeah.
And the people that actually don't resonate with me aren't in my life anymore, and that's okay as well. I send them love and let them go.
Yeah.
But the people that are in my life are incredibly supportive, and love them all.
And that's moving from that box again, isn't it? It's moving
Yeah.
outside of that box, opening up the new Pandora's box, and then exploring everything that's possible in there. There are a couple of times you mentioned that word listening, and I think we've talked about that quite a bit through this, of how listening to yourself, but how actually that isn't static either. It's that constant listening, it's that constant evolving of you, and as you grow and as you learn more, that listening to yourself, your needs are going to change. Similarly, if you're running your own business, your clients' needs are going to change. You don't have to do what you've always been doing, and to continue to grow and scale your business, you will probably evolve your offerings. And that all comes down to listening, because it has to find that alignment with your clients, but also that alignment with you, and that listening. I encourage my clients to have a check-in with themselves on a quarterly, ideally monthly basis. Check in with your goals, personally, financially, health wise. Does that feel okay? If not, what needs to change? Listening to what's going on. That's where you're going to see those success. If you always do what you've always done, you're always going to get what you've always got, right? And I think that phrase comes up really strongly with or resonates for me with what you've been talking about around just listening, active listening, making those changes once you kind of listened to your body, listen to what you're doing in your business, your clients and things. You focus a lot on nutrition and how that really helps fuel people, and has obviously helped you with, not just necessarily mindset, but also health. But I think nutrition's brilliant in kind of opening ourselves up to learning and going back to that kind of listening and things. If people are listening to this and thinking, okay, I'm just feeling really stuck, I know I need to take that step to get uncomfortable. I'm ready. I want to get uncomfortable. Nutrition is one of those places that you said was one of the kind of starting points for you. What would you recommend people to start tweaking, start changing once they've got that awareness?
Yeah, I think, it's really important. We all get niggles, okay? We all get the niggles, and we don't necessarily always listen to them. And so, we park them because we're too busy, and that's absolutely fine. And then those niggles become a little bit more niggly and a little bit longer standing, and health niggles. And if we're not careful, we're not listening, we're not really able to pull back then and say, actually, what am I doing that maybe is contributing? And one of the things that we can start with is actually fueling our body, giving ourselves that nutrient that we need, and making sure that we're prepped, we're prepared, and we are eating when we need to eat, and we're not eating when we don't need to eat. I think I was doing a little bit of research for something else earlier, and 1977 we ate 3 meals a day. Okay, so that was the sort of average 3 meals a day. 2017, same research, between 6 and 7 meals a day. Okay, so that's a huge amount of food. Okay, and in a lifetime, an adult will eat between 30 and 60 tons of food. Okay, so those stats are quite sort of, we're eating a lot, we're eating all the time. What if we're eating the wrong foods? What is that actually doing? It can create lethargy. It can make us feel tired. It can make us feel exhausted. It can deplete us of energy. And I think it's always sort of worth checking in with, what are you doing in the morning? How do you eat in the morning? Do you eat in the morning? Are you having a good enough breakfast? Is it nutritionally balanced? Are you eating lunch? Because we tend to grab and go. So can you
Especially
take
as
something
business
with you?
owners, right? Where we're trying to fit in as much as we can in the day.
Yeah. And it's busy. Life is really busy, but where can you pause and take that 15 minutes where you are actively giving yourself that nourishment, eating something that's fueling your body for the afternoon, so you're not getting massive, blood sugar highs and drops, and you are sustaining your energy over a longer period of time. Where in your day could you have a circuit breaker? Okay, where in your day can you take 20 minutes, go outside, get some fresh air, take your water with you, eat something that's going to be a little bit more healthy and sustains you for a longer period of time. And I don't think we edit that enough. I think we're sort of still in this little bit of home tends to be home cooked, or you come in, or you make a little bit of an effort, if you've got and things, you're in the home environment, you tend to have a fruit bowl, or whatever you're doing, you may feel a little bit more comfortable with creating food at home. We don't have that same synergy with work. Okay, so work tends to, we get sucked into emails, we get sucked into sitting at our desks for too long a time, we get sucked into phone calls, or looking at patients or dealing with clients, and then 4 hours have passed and you go, wow, I've not had a glass of water, I've not been up, I've not, this box that I've been looking at, this computer screen I've been looking at, I've been here for 4, 5, 6 hours, and then we wonder why we're exhausted when we get home at night, which has an impact then on our evenings and our sleep and our relationships, because we're crashing out in front of the TV. So there is a knock-on effect. And really where I start is just, where's that circuit breaker? Where's that stress load? Where can we put in that pause in the day? And where can you take a little bit of time, maybe at the weekend, to think about planning, batch cook, or put a lunch together for a couple of days, or put a breakfast together for a couple of days? Or where can you take the stress off? Where can you take the load off? And where can you start implementing that? Not just life, at home life, but where can you start implementing that in your workplace? I'm doing quite a lot of work at the moment, which is 1-2 minute sessions of just putting this pause in, to get up, start moving, start shaking, walk outside, get a glass of water before workplace, sit back down again and carry on. And there is so much research now that backs up this need for us to be moving, to get up and to have something to eat when we need to eat, and not have no food and then grabbing at the wrong things. So it's awareness, it's a little bit of listening in to what our body's telling us that it needs. And also, our brain will always go to 3 things. It will always go to food, it will always go to heat, and it will always go to comfort. Okay, so all the time you've got this little battle with your brain going, oh, I just want to grab something, I'm too hungry now. So slowing down a little bit and giving us some time to eat gives our stomach and our brain a time to catch up, and they start talking to each other. Actually, are you eating because you're hungry, or are you eating because you're bored, or you're comfort eating, or you're trying to mask something? What is it? Why are you eating? So there's lots of things that we can do in our day, if you're listening, if you're taking a little bit of a pause, not running around, and just editing, I think, and planning out your week a little bit more. What can you drop? I'm heading off on Friday. I've got a house move, imminent house move. There's lots of boxes and things that are around. I've shifted my week. I've parked my week. Things that actually I don't need to be doing, I'll do at a later date. And the things that I really need to do have become a priority. Within that, now I've created time for myself. I've created the time to be looking after me within this week. and before I'm heading off for a couple of weeks. And that's huge, just giving yourself a little bit of space to come back to, I've got to look after, me. I can now plan my week. I've given myself time. I've dropped things out of my schedule that I didn't need to do. And now, okay, I'm in an okay space. I can eat well. I can get outside. I can still do my meditation. I still do. So it's become a constant moving feast. It's a constant, excuse the pun, a constant moving, entity every day. But we have a choice in that day, okay, to prioritize ourselves and how much we are looking after ourselves, I think, within that day. And it doesn't take, longer than 5-10 minutes.
Can we say that it doesn't have to take a long time?
No, it doesn't have to be hours. I don't have hours in my day to be, on my mat or meditation. It takes me 15 minutes. That's all. 15 minutes, 20 minutes in my day. And I know I start my day well. Okay, whatever happens in my day, I know that I start my day well. And then I'll sense check at lunch. Okay, how am I feeling? Do I need to go outside? Have I eaten enough? And then I'll sense check at night. Oh gosh, okay, it's been a heavy day. I need to go back out. I need to go and just have a 5-10 minute rah in the garden. Whatever that looks like. I'll check in. I'll check in daily. 3, 4, 5 times a day. And I encourage people to just start from where you're at and make those really small adjustments.
Yeah, so important. I love the fact that we've made it into your list for must-dos this week with all. It sounds like you have a really busy week. So thank you for that, firstly.
Pleasure.
I think it just comes through so strongly around doing things in your way, having that awareness, understanding what it is that you need, that your business needs, that your health needs, and giving yourself permission to say yes to those things. And also saying no to the things that don't have to happen or that can be parked if you've got that busy schedule. And that awareness, that listening again comes up so strongly around, have those check-ins with yourself, like give yourself that time. Doesn't need to be long times, 5 minutes. Everyone can find 5 minutes, 2 minutes, even whilst you're waiting for the kettle to boil. That 2 minutes can be a really great time of going, okay, let's associate this. I'm making myself a cup of tea. I'm going to nourish myself. But actually, whilst that's happening, I'm going to check in. How am I feeling? Do I need to give myself something different? Do I need to do, I don't know, a bit of movement in those 2 minutes whilst I'm waiting, or, some music, whack on the radio? It is really key, rather than just being busy all the time. Just really understanding that nourishment, because it absolutely does have an impact, not just on our health, but our business results as well.
Yeah, definitely so.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I've absolutely loved our conversation. We've covered so many different things, and thank you for sharing a little insight into your story and kind of where you've kind of, I suppose, almost used everything that you've learned to get you to where you are today as well, and now sharing that knowledge with the people that you work with. If people are listening to this and thinking, oh, I just need to connect with Lindsay, how on earth do I find her? Where can people find you?
Oh, I'm on Insta, Lindsay _Randerson _, or I've got my website, which is ways to wellness.co.uk, or I'm on Facebook as well. So you can find me under Lindsay Randerson on there as well. So or just drop me a direct message or email, info@ways-to-wellness.co.uk. So either way, I'm always around, and one of those mediums I will pick up. So definitely. But no, thanks so much, Sarah. It's been a really pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, absolute pleasure to chat to you as well. And as you know, something very close to my heart of running a business in a way that works for you, running life in a way that works for you as well. And I think really what's come through really strongly is not just giving yourself permission, but finding those ways to nourish yourself so that you do have the success in life and in business in the ways that you want to. Lindsay, thank you so much. hope you have all enjoyed listening to this episode of the Healthy Business Podcast. I will be back next week with the next edition. And until then, do come over and send us a message, leave us a review. It always helps to spread the word and share these amazing conversations with as many people as we can do. I will see you on the next episode.